Captain Spriggs and his crew. Spriggs sailed at first with Low, and came away with him from Lowther. Afterward Low took a ship of 12 guns on the coast of Guinea, called the Delight, which Spriggs went off on board with 20 men, and leaving Low in the night, came to the West Indies. In their passage they made a black ensign which they called the Jolly Roger, with a skeleton in the middle holding a dart in one hand, striking a bleeding heart, and in the other an hourglass, and being hoisted they fired all their guns to salute Spriggs, whom they chose captain, and then went to look out for prey. In their voyage they took a Portuguese barkie, wherein they had rich plunder. Near St. Lucia they took a sloop belonging to Barbados, which they first plundered and then burnt, forcing some of the men into their service, and beating in a barbarous manner those that refused to join with them, and afterwards they sent them away in the boat, half dead with their wounds. The rest got to Barbados with much ado, though some of them died soon after of their cuts and slashes. After this they took a Martinico man, which they used in like manner, save that they did not burn the ship. Then, running down the leeward, they took one Captain Hawkins, coming from Jamaica, laden with logwood, out of which they took her stores, arms, and ammunition, and what they did not want they threw overboard. They cut the cable to pieces, knocked down the cabins, broke the windows, and did what mischief they could, taking Burridge and Stevens, the 2 mates, and some other hands by force, and then after keeping her a week they let her go. On the 27th they took a Rhode Island sloop, compelling the captain and all his men to go on board the pirate. One of them not being willing to stay with them, they told him he should have a discharge presently, which was about to receive 10 lashes from every man on board. The next day Burridge signed their articles, which pleased them so much that they fired all the guns and made him master, spending that day in rejoicings and drinking healths. The 1st of April they spied a sail, and gave her chase all night, believing she had been a Spaniard, but when they came up to her and gave her a broadside, she cried out for quarters, which made them cease firing, and ordered the captain to come aboard, which proved to be Captain Hawkins, whom they had dismissed 3 days before, not worth a groat. 2 days after they anchored at Ratran, not far from Honduras, and put ashore Captain Hawkins and several others, giving them powder and ball and a musket, and then left them to shift as well as they could. Here they stayed 3 weeks, when 2 men came in a canoe that had been left in another maroon island near Benica, and carried them thither. A fortnight after they espied a sloop at sea, which had lately escaped from the Spaniards at the Bay of Honduras, which upon a signal stood in and took them all off. At an island to the westward the pirates cleaned their ship, and then sailed toward St. Christopher's to meet Captain Moore. Spriggs next stood toward Bermudas, where he took a schooner belonging to Boston, from which he took all the men and sunk the vessel. Instead of going to Newfoundland, they came back to the islands, and on the 8th of June, to windward of St. Christopher's, they took a sloop, Nicholas Trot, master, belonging to St. Eustatia, whose men they hoisted as high as the main foretops, and so let them fall down again. Then whipping them about the decks, they gave Trot his sloop and let him go, keeping only 2 of his men, besides the plunder. 2 or 3 days after, they took a ship coming from Rhode Island to St. Christopher's, laden with provisions and some horses, and burnt ship, men, and horses. Since when Spriggs had not been heard of, though it is supposed he went to Madagascar to spend in rioting and wantonness his ill-gotten plunder, till by a letter from Jamaica on the 2nd of March last we understood that he had been again at the Bay of Honduras and taken 16 sail. Thank you for joining us today. Remember to like the video if you liked it, subscribe, and click the bell to get notifications in your feed. See you next time on Pendant and Ring.